As far back as I can remember, which is about the time when I was 5, there was one thing that was fun and kept me entertained for hours. Now that I'm approaching 30 in about 2 weeks, the same thing is just as much fun and continues to entertain. Video games have been a huge part of people's lives starting back to when they were first developed for computers. People want to be taken out of the world they live in and become part of the world where they are in control and can have fun doing it. Even though there are many different ways to play, my favorite has always been gaming consoles. I wanted to just spend the next couple moments talking about some of the original gaming consoles, the changes in gaming, and where they are now. For the purpose of this speech, I am going to stick with the major consoles. As technology has advanced, they have found their way into the people's homes with smaller computers and gaming consoles, and now into people's backpacks and pockets with mobile devices and tablets. We'll take a look at some of the original consoles, what some of the original consoles were, as well as some of the more current consoles are today. The major start to console gaming dates back to the development of Ralph Beer's The Brown Box. The Smithsonian states in an article that The Brown Box, 1967-68, at americanhistory.si.edu, that in 1987, Ralph Beer and his colleagues at Sanders Associates Incorporated developed a prototype for the first multiplayer, multi-program video game system. Smithsonian shares that the games for Brown Box included ping pong, checkers, 4 different sports games, and a few others. Sanders licensed the Brown Box to Magnavox, which released the systems the Magnavox Odyssey in 1972. Cartridge-based gaming consoles found its start in the creation by Atari called the Atari 2600. In an article by Angela Modoni, Pong, Atari, and the Origins of the Home Video Game, which was published on April 17, 2012 at american.si.edu, she states that Atari was founded by Nolan Bushnell along with Ted Dabney. Modoni also states that the Atari was the longest-running gaming console in history. Atari is what brought the famous game Pong into many people's living rooms. Now, over the years, many gaming consoles were developed, but none changed the world of console gaming or had such a major impact like the development of the Japanese-based Nintendo. On Nintendo's website, Nintendo.com, in a section about their company history, Nintendo shares that the Nintendo Entertainment System was introduced in 1985. Nintendo had major success in selling over 60 million copies. Nintendo brought us the major hits of the Mario Bros., Tetris, Zelda, and many others. Other consoles would include the Game Boy, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advances, GameCube, many versions of the Nintendo DS, the Wii, and the Wii U. Another gaming console that found a lot of success early was the Sega Genesis. Now, Sega had tried many times to create a console, but struck out. D.S. Cohen, in the article History of the Sega Genesis, Dawn of the 16-Bit Era, published on classicgames.about.com, shares that in 1988, Sega released the Sega Mega Drive in Japan. In 1989, Sega released the same in the US, this time the name Sega Genesis. One of Sega's most known games were the Sonic Hedgehog franchise. Sega had many other consoles as well, the Sega Saturn and the Sega Dreamcast. Sega ended its run with the Dreamcast as its last console. Sony also entered the gaming scene with trying to market items for Nintendo and Sega. In the article History of the PlayStation published by IGN on August 27, 1998, they shared that on December 3, 1994, the PlayStation was finally released in Japan. Almost a year later, IGN states the PlayStation launched in the United States on September 9, 1995, to an instant success. Other PlayStation consoles include the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and their mobile devices, the PSP and the PS Vita. One of the largest computer companies in the world couldn't allow themselves to be outdone and found their way into the console world with Microsoft's The Xbox. Rick Marshall's article, The History of the Xbox, published May 12, 2013 for DigitalTrends.com, shares that Xbox was released on November 14, 2001. Microsoft would go on to compete with Sony and release the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One roughly the same time PlayStation 3 and 4 were released. With so many different companies in the battle to make top games, the way games were designed would never be the same. Early video games were very basic. They went from being as simple as two white paddles hitting a square ball back and forth to a man in blue overalls and a red hat running through a level to save a princess. Early gaming consoles tried to put you into the world that was lifelike, but due to limitations, were not able to. As games continued on, the worlds we played in became more than just a flat plane. With Nintendo 64 and PlayStation's worlds started to become more 3D. The characters we played with were able to roam around with the maps in all directions instead of just going from point A to point B, like the original Mario Brothers did. We were able to look all around the world like we were looking through the character's eyes ourselves. Games took us to a first-person view. Even though console games were not the first to bring us the first-person view, it helped push the market for first-person shooters. Games like James Bond's GoldenEye is where I believe first-person shooters like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and many others got its start. It made playing against other friends both fun and frustrating at the same time and had us wanting to do it over and over again. I believe that the open world concept of Mario 64 is another one that allowed for games such as Grand Theft Auto, Assassin's Creed, Skyrim, and many other games to get their start to the open gaming world. The push of making these games far more advanced than the days the white paddle and the square ball is why, even though retro games are still created, we never go back to continue to advance in graphics. With the advancements of graphics, games have become more and more lifelike. Nowadays, if you turn on a game and a person walks into a room who didn't see you turn it on, they'd have a hard time of knowing if the game was real or not. Nowadays, with the advancements in technology, it is hard sometimes to be able to tell the difference. Things have become more and more lifelike and look so much more real. Gaming companies are trying their best to take you out of your own world and enter into theirs. Even though there's been little success, companies like Sony are trying to find a way to implement virtual reality devices so that things keeping you from the game to being completely in the game is your actual physical location. With advances with the cameras and motion sensors, games get you up off the couch, moving as though you're actually the actual character yourself. The gaming console has come a long way. As time goes on, we may find ourselves in a world where we're the actual characters. So gaming consoles have been around for a while. Some have had success and some others have faded away. With the innovation of the creators, games have gone from a simple world to a world where we are completely taken with. As time goes on, we will find ourselves so involved in a game that we would rather be a part of the world instead of our own. Games will continue to be a huge part of people's lives. The more advanced games are made, the more they will pull us into the world we live in the world we don't exist. So even as I continue to get older, I will find a way to be entertained and have the fun with the gaming consoles.